Back in Baja, we'd been having way too much fun blasting up and down the beaches of Las Barillas, and this was about the point where our luck started to run out. The air was pretty choppy, and you could see the gusting wind rolling across the ocean. I watched some bike packers pedal up the coast and remembered, a bike packer on YouTube was actually what first sparked my interest in coming to Baja years ago. Joe kind of disappeared that morning, and it turns out his luck on the ground was even worse than ours in the sky. While taking off, he accidentally blended his fancy new iPhone 14 Pro, along with plenty of incredible footage. I can repair almost any phone, but we decided to sacrifice this one to the wind gods in hopes of better luck.
It's supposed to be a chemical reaction. That's the top part, bubble. Yeah.
Joe was far from being granted better luck after getting his van stuck yet again. After getting him yanked out, it was definitely time to move on to bigger and better beaches. It's amazing how every beach in Baja has its own unique features. Our new spot just happened to have more features than other beaches. For example, the water here was churning with bull sharks everywhere. Probably the most stunning natural phenomenon were the tectonic folds that could be seen perfectly from our paramotors in the crystal clear water, which also happened to be world class for scuba and snorkeling. There was plenty of wind, so I practiced more touch and goes on these mini sand dunes. There's really no better feeling than landing just a few feet before the endless blue abyss. And it was the ultimate rush launching over the crashing waves, moments before they reach your feet. Once we had perfected our touch and goes, we decided to fly along a mountainous section where there appeared to be a little beach party of some sort. I might not speak the best Spanish, but luckily, having a good time is a universal language that I speak quite fluently.
See?
Somehow, we managed to land ourselves at precisely the right beach once again. Doing beer and goes was just one of the many positive experiences we had with the locals while in Mexico.
Oh, here comes this Rob guy. Looks like he has something in his hand. What could that be?
We had more exploring to do that night, so we tossed the beverages on ice and quickly got back in the sky. Needless to say, it was another magnifico sunset flight to end the day. Although I'd been on the road for weeks now and was thousands of miles from home, in this moment, it felt like I was right where I belonged. This was the ultimate escape from reality. The awkward language barrier no longer seemed awkward, and I was in good company, and just when I thought we'd reached the peak of Baja flying, the next morning blew me away once again, when we were greeted with dolphins upon even more dolphins. I'd say the dolphins put on one heck of a show, as we journeyed out to the tectonic folds that could be seen just beneath the surface. This stretch of coastline was absolutely breathtaking. Once I was low on fuel, I landed and jumped in the ocean to see what some of this world-class snorkeling was all about. And Rob did what Rob does. Later, I talked Rob into hitting up a nearby marine park, which exceeded my expectations. I'd never seen so many different species of fish. I even had a staring contest with a moray eel, which I wasn't about to let out of my sight.
Yeah, that's a cool fish. That's my favorite one so far.
Everywhere in Baja is a back road, so we blasted the manliest tunes we could find before loading up and beach hopping to a calmer area near Cabo. Endless goat and cattle crossings made travel a bit slow. At one point, we lost Rob entirely after getting stopped for being on our walkie-talkies. We were in the middle of a major city with no way to reach him but our 500-foot range walkie-talkies. A half hour went by, and I jokingly paged him. "Rob, do you copy?" And much to my surprise, he just happened to be in the area at that very moment, and we were reunited and set up to fly moments later. The time had finally come. When I shot out the idea to go fly camping on an island, I was half serious and didn't expect these guys to actually go along with it, but they fueled the idea, and weather finally lined up on my last full day with Rob and Joe. As we prepared for our mission, I noticed my exhaust was inconveniently cracked, along with my airbox. I traded Joe a new phone for the parts I needed, and we all prepped our gear to make the 8-mile ocean crossing to a mountainous deserted island called Cerralvo. I think this was the quietest we had been on the entire trip. It was like we were preparing for battle. We knew there were high risks involved, but we were laser focused and trusted our abilities. One by one, we pulled off the first challenge of launching with heavy bags full of supplies that would get us through the unpredictable evening ahead of us. The game plan was to gain enough altitude that we could safely glide back to dry land if we ran into any motor issues. An 8-mile crossing meant we needed to fly high. Like, really high. 8 miles on a paramotor going 30 miles per hour can seem like it takes forever on any given flight. Now, add bone-chilling, shark-infested water into the mix, and, well, it felt like an eternity making this crossing. There was no room for error. The first order of operations was to locate a suitable beach for landing and setting up camp. Sure, we scoped out some places on Google Maps, but maps didn't prepare me for the scale of this island. The mountains were enormous, which could potentially create dangerous rotor. So far, everything we knew about this area was a mystery. We had visited this beach earlier, and the wind never behaved as predicted. The idea of being stranded on this island was a bit unnerving, but just try to find 3 amigos with a bigger sense of adventure than us. None of us were backing down. As I approached Cerralvo, I spotted Joe ahead, and my heavily loaded 18-meter glider quickly caught up. The wind seemed pretty light so far, which was a good sign. We needed to find an area that was suitable for landing and taking off in any direction, so we began the hunt for the perfect beach. And that's when we spotted this pristine white sand peninsula. It appeared inviting, and not only did it look like the best candidate so far, there were mobula rays and sea turtles swimming all around it. I noticed Joe pushing further up the coast. Joe and Rob both had larger gas tanks than myself, so fuel was a major concern for me. As the sun began to set on the horizon, I got rocked pretty good with katabatic winds flowing out of the mountains. That was my cue, and I signaled to Joe that it was time to set up camp. He somehow understood my terrible sign language and did a 180. I really wasn't sure where Rob had went at this point, but I lined up for a quick touch and go to test out the sand. Like everywhere else in Baja, it was perfecto. After climbing back up, Rob appeared, and I watched Joe gracefully touch down on Cerralvo. The first leg of the ambitious adventure was officially complete.
So it's our island now. Woo. This looks like a good spot. I like it. We take off in 3 directions.
The first leg of the ambitious adventure was officially complete, and all there was left to do was set up camp and get the fire going.
Okay, enough playing around. We got work to do.
You gotta love when a plan comes together. I was packing an El Cheapo Walmart tent, a sleeping pad, sleeping bag, a package of hot dogs, a lighter, and it only seemed fitting to enjoy an ice-cold Goose Island out here on Cerralvo. We were really out here. We were really doing it. Over the last 3 years, I'd done my fair share of fly camping on my own back in Kansas, but I'd never gone with a group of good friends. The craziest part of all this was the fact this was Rob and Joe's first ever fly camping trip, and they picked an uninhabited island off the coast of Mexico, of all places. We piled more driftwood onto an already blazing fire and roasted weenies with our makeshift skewers. I'm no survivalist, but we feasted like kings, and other than a surprise visit from a scorpion, I'd like to think we were thriving during our one-night stay on Cerralvo. After a night filled with campfire stories, we woke up to some concerningly gusting winds that definitely didn't show up on any weather apps the night before. Eventually it calmed down a bit, but we made sure we were all on the same page before crossing the ocean.
What's up?
If for some reason I can't penetrate, I'm going over here, just FYI.
Okay, sounds good. We got this one. There he goes. Just like so. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. See you on the other side.
One by one, we were back in the sky, gaining altitude to make it back to the mainland. Just as we got off the ground, an amazing low layer of clouds rolled in. We flew onwards, and through some gaps in the clouds, I spotted several humpback whales breaching, which seemed like a proper farewell. Minute by minute, La Ventana appeared a little bit bigger as we inched closer. Eventually, we could see the iconic lighthouse, and our cars came into view. Miraculously, our white-knuckle ocean crossing was starting to feel like a huge success. This was my last day with the guys before I'd begin my return journey back up the Baja Peninsula. My time here was a blur, but I accomplished everything I'd set out to do, and fly camping was the cherry on top. One last buzz around the lighthouse, and I was ready to touch back down to Earth. The three of us had just punched our tickets to Iceland, so I knew I'd be running into these guys again before too long. A bittersweet goodbye was masked by the excitement of journeying solo back up the Baja Peninsula.
Well, we did it, boys.
All in all, the opportunity to fly with these guys in Baja was a blast, and I was honored to drive away with so many unforgettable memories. Thanks for watching, guys.